On Thursday, August 31st, Volition, the studio behind the popular Red Faction and Saints Row franchises, announced that they would be closing their studio after 30 years of operations. This is truly a sad day because 200 people are now out of a job due to no fault of their own. And I'm seeing chatter from the Saints Row communities wondering if they're ever gonna see another Saints Row game again.
You cloned that?
Let me introduce myself. I'm Alexander Mejia, and I want to give you my perspective of working at Volition for over 8 years working on trailers and camera systems. I am so honored to be able to work with some of the most brilliant and creative people I've ever met. And if you're out of a job, you need to listen to this. Back in 2008, right before the great financial crisis, I was not a game developer. The first iPhone had just launched, and I was running a production company in the Midwest. Now, at this time, the great financial crisis was occurring, but I was 23 years old, and I was completely ignorant of these dynamics at play. All I saw was that I wasn't able to get the same production work from the same businesses I used to go to. And so I decided to look for a full-time job. Now, I was throwing my resume everywhere, just like every 20-something out of college. And I was unqualified for every job I applied to. But then I got a call back from Volition, and I was surprised. I was like, wait, there's a major video game developer near me, and they want people to make trailers? Fast forward, I got a job at Volition, and I remember being super intimidated by all the high performers I was surrounded by. Each one of them were amazing in their own way, and I knew that I had to step my game up. Volition was the place where I learned how to write, how to teach, how to communicate with teams. Guess what? They didn't do a good job teaching those in school. I also learned about the video game business working with the leadership who set the tone for the game and set the direction for the studio. Now, at first, I was an implementer, but over time, I started to solve problems of my own, like the camera system I designed for Saints Row 3 that affected all the games Volition put out since. Volition leveled me up like no other job experience had in the past. Now, I was looking through some of the pictures that I had, and just a whole flood of memories just came back. Like my workstation here, which I did work at for over 8 years. The great friends that I made there, the crazy art projects we would do just to have a break from the monotony of crunch. And of course, don't forget, we did a weekly stream pick just when we were starting to stream on Twitch. Oh, this one's awesome. I don't think I've ever shared with anybody. Here was our 20th anniversary of Volition, where we themed each room based off of the franchise that they put out. I love this one about Descent because it was a real surreal feeling working at a place that had created one of my childhood franchises, and now I was there adding to that legacy. Saints Row and Red Faction became a part of my identity. I worked on those franchises with a ton of pride. The fact that my work was being experienced by millions of people had a huge impact on my own self-worth, but it even had a greater emotional impact on many of the fans. I know I got to see a lot of those letters you wrote. It led me to realize that video games weren't just something that you put together haphazardly. It was meticulously created by people who care the most about the entire experience. I am a proud Volitionite, and if you work there, you should be too. Many greats have walked those halls, like Drew Holmes, who's now the IP director of Far Cry, Scott Phillips, who was the creative director at Ubisoft, and then worked long hours at Volition to make sure that the Saints Row series put fun above all else. And don't forget Dave Samuel, he's associate art director at Bungie. He was responsible for a lot of those crazy VFX we had in our game. Look, there's a lot more incredible Volitionites out there, but I kind of want to not mention people if they haven't updated their LinkedIn in a long time. My guess is that they just kind of want to be left alone or they've left the industry. Look, anybody who says Volition doesn't care isn't seeing the whole picture. We were the studio that always punched 5 times above our weight. We created open world games that a company like Ubisoft would then make with only 20% of that team size. We went toe-to-toe with Grand Theft Auto with 20% of their budget. And the reason why we could do that is because we had brilliant people there who made it possible. We were always understaffed, under-budgeted, but we still delivered. You must look at the talent at Volition, as there are veterans there who know how to be a 5X worker, and with the right resources, they could be a 10X player, easy. Now, I won't comment on why Volition was shut down. I wasn't there when it happened. I don't have a full picture there. But what I can comment on is where I sit today in Silicon Valley. Seeing many of my friends affected by the tech layoffs has been devastating. Over 20,000 layoffs were announced by Facebook alone. Twitter has reportedly shed 4,500 jobs, and the folks that I speak to who managed to keep their jobs in this town are incredibly cost conscious now because overall consumer spending is just down everywhere. Now, I can remember living through the transition in 2001 where the game innovation shifted from the PC to the PS2. Many PC-based studios either adapted to ship on consoles or were closed up after another financial crash in 2001. Market forces change, and those that don't adapt to the new normal die. I know this firsthand during my time at Volition because I remember when THQ went bankrupt. That company had huge licensing deals with the kids and family games like all the Nickelodeon and Disney licensed titles. And then all of a sudden, those games weren't selling due to a shift in the market. Turns out, parents like to give their kids iPhones with free games. And then you combine that with the great financial crisis of 2008, and over time, something had to give. Look, I can put 2 and 2 together and make a prediction here. Other game studios are hitting these similar crossroads right now. You ever notice how so many games have been put out to market early and they're getting poor reviews? It has nothing to do with the studio's dedication to the craft or somehow their fans being too angry or some game engine screwing things up, but it has everything to do with business and market dynamics. The average game's production time keeps going up and up, and because the demands gamers make keeps going up and up, with the 9th generation of consoles in full swing and new tools like Unreal Engine 5 taking full advantage of the console's power by showing movie quality graphics in real time, player expectations are higher than they've ever been. The quality of graphics, the quality of gameplay, the scope of the game keeps increasing, and paradoxically at the same time, the level of spend consumers are willing to give is shrinking. It'll only be a matter of time before studios start reducing headcount and give up on other key franchises to focus on what's making money today. Look, I know it's not pretty, but there's a silver lining to all this. Game studios go away. IPs get locked behind some lawyer's vault, but talent always flourishes. Look, I know if you've been laid off today, it can feel like the most dreadful thing you can't escape from. But the talents that you've built over the years of punching 5 times above your weight are so valuable. Never, ever forget that fact.
About time your burnt ass woke up.
You okay, Johnny?
Yeah, aside from almost getting sent to the chair, I'm fucking great.
New opportunities will open up. New ways to make and ship games are happening. And new studios that are smaller or more nimble are forming to make incredible games. Gamers are growing weary of the same formulaic franchises. The time for innovation is now, and you are the key to driving that innovation. And all the gamers out there, time's gonna tell whether or not Saints Row is dead. I don't get to make that decision. Somebody else who owns the IP does. But the people who made Saints Row great are still out there. They are still working diligently on new games, on new franchises, on new ideas, new stories that will drive this industry forward. The business people will always be business people, but the creators will always find a way to connect with the players. If you are a game developer that's been laid off recently, whether or not you've worked at Volition or not, doesn't matter, give yourself a shout out in the comments and I will pin those to the top, and I want everybody out there to signal boost that. I want you to put a thumbs up on those comments and get them really high up there, because these game developers are working tirelessly to make games, and there's no reason why they should be out of a job when they've got the skills that they do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next Insider video.